about inspirational teams. So this is a difference from normal inspirational stories. I think we normally talk about a particular person, but part of me actually realized that a lot of the achievements that particular people do, they are done in teams. And so it should be actually expanded, I think. And let's take a look at what successful teams actually look like. So one of the things that I thought was pretty inspirational was this particular quote. This is from Ray Dalio. He says, this is a fundamental work principle he abides by. Make your passion and your work one, and the same, and do it with the people you want to be with. Okay, so that's kind of like Ray Dalio's approach to this particular idea. And you might ask, okay, who is Ray Dalio and why should I care about what Ray Dalio says? Well, he happens to be the founder of Bridgewater Associates. They are a hedge fund, and they happen to manage about $140 billion of other people's money. So he does have some legitimacy and knowledge about this particular thing. So he's also an expert in the economy, and he can be a really good resource if you are investing and want to know what is happening in the particular economics or stocks or anything. Okay. So anyways, let's continue. So what am I going to talk about today? Just a few simple things. I'm going to talk about 3 teams that inspire delight. I'm going to talk about what made them special and how that can apply to Bukit Vista and you. Okay, so let's go with the first team. The first team is actually a team that Justin and I probably know about. They're the Oakland A's. They are a home baseball team, but they had challenges. And I think, Vidi, you and Lois might have seen that movie Moneyball already, right? So it talked about essentially some of the challenges that the team was facing early in the 2000s. So what was the challenge exactly? Well, the Oakland A's actually happen to be a very small budget team. They don't have as much budget as other baseball teams. And their problem was that the larger baseball teams that had larger budgets would come and they would poach their star players. So the players would kind of go on this team that would develop into become stars. And then when they became stars, bigger teams would be able to offer more money and essentially buy them away from the Oakland A's. Now, that's very frustrating, of course. And they would always almost win these championships as well. So that was also doubly frustrating. So they're losing key players and they're almost champions and they almost became champions again. I'm going to tell a little bit more about how that process worked, right? So here was their constraint. They couldn't really solve the problem using more money or using more traditional means. That wasn't going to work. So they were forced to innovate. They were forced to put themselves in a position where they needed to think of, okay, how am I going to actually solve this problem? What they came up with was this concept called sabermetrics. So traditional baseball is kind of like 3 separate things. There's scouting, statistics, and business. What they did was they started applying data to all 3 of these particular ideas. Before, these were done using kind of anecdotal aesthetic judgment. But after they started using sabermetrics, they started seeing new possibilities. And what kind of possibilities emerged? So one of the possibilities was that they started using data to analyze their players. And they found that there were players that could actually effectively play baseball, but because of their funny attributes or the way they looked, or maybe they didn't have essentially a good face or form, they were just passed over by baseball scouts and they weren't given an opportunity to play. So by looking at the data of each player's performance, the team was able to find good players and they were able to combine this into a team that essentially, in a word, reached their SLAs. They were able to kind of look at the KPIs and figure out, okay, is this person able to reach their SLAs and achieve it? So what was the end result? So this approach was very innovative. And it was really radical. I mean, it has its own Wikipedia entry at this point about essentially the team went on after using this method to win 20 games in a row, which was unprecedented at the time and was something to be celebrated as well. So that's the Oakland A's, the first team that I want to talk about. The second team that I want to talk about is actually a team that, Justin and Vidi probably both know about, right? This is the programming language Java. Java actually is an island of Indonesia. It's the main island in Indonesia too as well. But this one is actually also very curious. The challenges were here at this time. It was a different type of challenge. So Java came out of a company called Sun Microsystems. And Sun, back in the early 1990s, was doing a killing selling servers to hot internet companies. At that point, if you wanted to have an internet company, you would have to go and buy Sun servers or servers from any company. You'd have to stack them in your office, and that became your way of serving the internet. So Sun was doing really good business on that, but there was one dissatisfied person, and he felt like Sun was not really focusing on the user experience. It was a big company and big politics, and so he decided to bring something up. This guy's name was Patrick Naughton, and he, during I think a softball game or a hockey game, he complained to the CEO and said, "I want to quit. I'm going to join Next," which was the company that had been founded by Steve Jobs from Apple. And he said Next is doing things right. So Scott, who was the CEO, he actually took this as an interesting challenge, and he responded by saying this. He said to Patrick, "Before you go, write up what you think Sun is doing wrong. Don't just lay out the problem, give me a solution, and tell me what you would do if you were God." Now, that's actually a pretty interesting statement and, defining the problem. And what happened later was actually pretty interesting. So Patrick, instead of quitting, actually decided to stay. He decided to stay, and by staying, he also brought a team of Sun's best programmers together, and they went off-site. They went off-site so that they wouldn't be affected by the company politics and the administration and all those factors that was destroying their soul. So they invented essentially the Java programming language, and that is still being used today. In fact, that is the one way that people who write code can have their code run on all kinds of different machines built by different people who build computers. So that legacy continues to this day. What happened to Sun? Well, Sun went bankrupt, actually, as the internet moved to cloud computing, and their campus is now occupied by Facebook. Facebook kept all of the Sun signage on their campus. So the Sun, the signs that said Sun on them, Facebook kept them all, but they flipped them around to face the back. So if you go to Facebook, you'll see that the front of the sign shows Facebook and the thumbs up, but the back of the sign will show Sun Microsystems. And it's a reminder to everybody working at Facebook of what can happen if you don't innovate quickly enough. Unfortunately, in this particular case, the team wasn't able to save the company, but they were able to essentially leave a legacy that is still remembered and used by a lot of actually people today. You probably are using Java right now, actually, by attending this particular All Hands with me. So that's another thing that's actually pretty cool too as well. So that's the story of the second team that made impact. Okay, last one, and this one brings it back to home. Again, this one is in the world of hospitality and it begins in Indonesia as well. So Adrian Zeka, he's a Czech-Indonesian business person. He is credited for a few things, but he was one of the first people to bring, I think, Playboy magazine to Indonesia as well. But he was going to actually build he was in Thailand at the time, and he was looking over a piece of land that he owned. And the land was challenging because it wasn't quite the right size for a hotel, but it was also too big to build a single property, a single villa. So he approached a lot of the major hotel operators, and they all told him the same thing. They said that your land's too small, you won't be able to build enough rooms on it, and therefore it won't be profitable. So therefore, we will not actually do business with you. We will not operate and manage your space. So he wasn't disappointed, though, and he thought, okay, what can I do? So he went around and he built a team. He hired young, ambitious architects, and he let them pioneer something new. He let them build what are now known as boutique hotels, small, informal hotels that have no grand lobby, that don't have like enormous amounts of extra services, but are particular and very bespoke and also very familiar. It's like being in a little village encampment in a way. And the smaller bespoke hotels actually built a brand that caught the favor of a new class of elite travelers, such as, well, some of the people here that are pretty famous in the tech industry as well. Bill Gates has been a guest. Sandberg has been a guest. Mark Zuckerberg has been a guest. The late Princess Diana was also a guest, and also George Clooney have been guests. So Amman attracts essentially some of the most wealthy people in the world to travel and use their hotels, which is actually pretty inspirational way from a hotel that couldn't get started in the first place. But as a result of the architectural work, these architects all went on to build very, very successful practices throughout Asia and Europe. Their names are Ed Tuttle, Kerry Hill, and Jean-Michel Gatti. So I think this is actually pretty inspirational because this was a challenging situation, brought young minds into it, and transformed the way that many people travel and the way that many people actually perceive luxury travel across the world. Okay, so what's the takeaway and how does this all relate to Bukit Vista? Well, hopefully everyone can see a few of the core values that each of these teams embraced. Being the hero, I think, is one thing that they all have done. So what does that mean? When they faced a challenging situation, they faced it, I think, with courage and curiosity. They weren't afraid to agitate or disturb the status quo. Doing that essentially put them into a new space and a new pioneering position to innovate. The Oakland A's, of course, use data instead of using anecdotal stories to make their decisions. So that's a case of using data. Alma Resorts, I think, is this idea of never settling and always pursuing this idea of how you can make things more perfect and not just taking other people's no's as a reason to stop doing what you're doing. And Java is a beautiful case, I think, of stepping on toes. So most people would feel like, okay, if I said I'm going to resign, the boss is just going to let me resign, right? And that's, I think, one way that Patrick got the attention of his leaders to pay attention and actually give focus to what he was doing. Incidentally, I think Patrick actually wrote something like a 12-page summary of all the problems that was happening at Sun Microsystems and all the solutions that he thought should be implemented. And that is, I think, a very, very good example of stepping on toes. So challenge, but also give solutions for where you see essentially improvements can be made. Okay, those are the takeaways today from some of the teams that just talked about. And hopefully these can kind of just marinate and sit with you and give you kind of like some reference frames to think about when we're living our core values from day to day. Okay, that is it. Next, I will take us over to the Miro. And Jesslyn, how you doing? Welcome in, Jesslyn.
Hi, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Okay, good morning. All right, so here is the Ask Me Anything part, everyone. So just before, I think I've shared the link for this particular Ask Me Anything. I'll share the link again here in the chat. And so there's a few ways you can do it. You can just write your questions up on this board, or you can just kind of like double take. I'll pause speaking for a moment, just give everyone a moment, let's say about 2 or 3 minutes, to just write whatever questions you feel that I can help you answer with, and also that you'd like to bring up, okay?
Çok erken tattım cilvesi kaderi. Zamansız büyüdüm şimdi kayıp çocukluğum günlerim. Bir sayın bir an bir gülüm pare pare gruptur hepsi bekçilim. Dağ gibi derya gibi ben de acılar şahidin şarkılar ne zaman bitile hayata göz kırsam çiçekler açsam kapıda dayanır sonbahar gibi derya gibi ben de acılar şahidin şarkılar ne zaman bitile hayata göz kırsam çiçekler açsam kapıda sanmışım yolum varmış daha. Aşka inanmayın gülün saymışlar. Onlar yalan. Başım duman. Bilirim eskisi gibi yeri dolamaz. Yarım kalan hikayeleri bir noktası olamaz. Kuralları yazdım, bozmayı bilemedim. Sonrası dile kolay yara bere geceleri. Gökyüzü yaza döner, sol yanıma yazar. Yine kara düzen peşimde canavar. Ne kolay ardın yıkıldı bir rüzgarla. Yanımda da sandım tutmuş aslında. Gökyüzü yaza döner, sol yanıma yazar. Yine kara düzen peşimde canavar. Ne kolay ardın yıkıldı bir rüzgarla. Yanımda da sandım tutmuş aslında. Ben savaşları huzur sanmışım, yolum varmış daha. Aşka inanmayın gülün saymışlar. Onlar yalan. Başım duman. Bilirim eskisi gibi yeri dolamaz. Yarım kalan hikayeleri bir noktası olamaz. Kuralları yazdım, bozmayı bilemedim. Sonrası dile kolay yara bere geceleri. Gökyüzü yaza döner, sol yanıma yazar. Yine kara düzen peşimde canavar. Ne kolay ardın yıkıldı bir rüzgarla. Yanımda da sandım tutmuş aslında. Gökyüzü yaza döner, sol yanıma yazar. Yine kara düzen peşimde canavar. Ne kolay ardın yıkıldı bir rüzgarla. Yanımda da sandım tutmuş aslında.
Okay, let's take a look at some of these. Everybody who's still writing, go ahead and keep putting up the written stuff. Let's take a look here. All right, this is one of the crucial things that we have right now. Okay, so as we all know, the operations side right now is very resource constrained. We need to have more people working on the customer service side, and we also need more property managers as well. Okay, let's go to Jesslyn first. Jesslyn, tell us about what you think about the timing.
I think we discussed this briefly in awareness chapter.
We did, yeah.
Like certain people search for certain things during certain times, right? Like for guests,
Right.
usually it's holiday season, but for people who are looking for employment, this might not be the best time yet. If we take, for example, for students, this is like the late semester, the late part of the
Right.
semester, and usually people are already busy with their exams, with preparing for their projects, their final grades, and it's usually people seem to look for the working opportunity during the beginning of the semester for students where their calendars
Yep.
are not blocked yet, like what you said yesterday, sir. Whereas
Okay.
for people in general who are not students, I also don't think that this might be the best timing, but I don't know exactly what the best timing is.
Okay. So it sounds like maybe best timing for employees might not actually be the best timing for us, and the best timing for us might not actually be the best timing for employees. Yeah. Okay. Let's keep on going. Let's go for Shaylin. Shaylin, your updates on this one.
Okay, so the second one is actually kind of related to apa Jesslyn's point just now. But yes, the strategy was apa at some point it was actually not apa plan in the long term wise in a way. So we're currently like because it's like urgent right in this case, so we only plan for like apa for the coming week or maybe like for the whole month and then that's it. And then it's not actually like apa not really into a long term approach in this one. Because like if we were like thinking to actually like expand the team, and it shouldn't actually like only be like around this moment only, right? But we also should have like thought about the longer term wise. In this case, that we are apa planning to expand our team, plus apa planning to like hire more, right? And that could be like a perspective that we can actually consider.
Okay, got it. That's actually a pretty interesting explanation too. Let's also kind of move this over here. One of the assumptions that I think we had, assumptions about MBKM, right? I think one of the assumptions we had about MKKM was this would provide relief for short-term hires. Is that assumption a good assumption still, Shaylin, you think?
Short-term hires, right? I wouldn't say exactly 100%, but like
Right.
apa it's still apa it's relief, but not really like it's not reliable 100%.
Right. On certain roles that are, let's say, over applied, yes, right, we'll get enough MBKM hires to fill those roles. But on certain other roles, we will not get enough hires to actually fill those roles. So that seems to be one of the crucial issues. Okay, interesting. All right pool. Yes, Lilith. Okay, tell us more about that. Or ask this: are we targeting the right pool for a certain position?
Yeah, basically, that's especially for full-time hire because, for example, we would like to hire kind of like reservation.
Mhm.
That's why there is apa in university there is the vocational and also academics, right?
Right.
Because they are targeted to be a strategic person minded and also people who do operation. So, for example, we would like to hire reservation. I'm not underestimating some major, but
Mhm.
if they are really trained to do that, perhaps that the right things when we hire in the right pool.
That's a great question. So that goes a little bit back up to what Jocelyn said, Lilith. The timing right now to hire from universities is a little bit not that great, okay, because we're kind of like in between semesters at the moment. Also,
But the
from the
full time,
previous,
are
okay,
we hiring full time like from people who still take college? No, right?
we're hiring full time from our traditional. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Shaylin, let's go over to you. Are we targeting people who are still in college for full time roles, or are we targeting people who have graduated for full time roles?
Normally, those who have graduated, but we can actually make a few exceptions actually. So, for example, like Tia right now, she's actually currently in her like final year, but apa her like apa her motivation and like all of the other attributes can actually be considered apa for a full time role. So it would actually depends on the context, let's say.
Okay, got it. Okay, here's my best explanation for this, Lois. So this is kind of like where this whole thing juggles together. If we do short-term, let's say specific targeting, these are short-term approaches. We look at people who've already graduated, who are open for work, and we drop them invitation letters to apply, right? So that's kind of like the focus in doing the short term. But if you do that, then you don't necessarily get the group to make decisions in your favor. So those are essentially the resource manage issues that we're dealing with at the moment. If we spend all our time targeting individuals who have already graduated, then what we see is, okay, we're kind of neglecting the long-term batches that will come in through specific branding, right? The ones that we target also individually, I have also noticed this, Shaylin. The potential approach could also be improved. This was something that I saw recently. Okay, I'll just share my LinkedIn, I think, and everyone can take a look at this. So I noticed that some of the whale hunting approaches, they are done non-conversationally. Let's see, some are done conversationally. Okay, these are the ones that I think are an improvement over the past targeting. Okay, so I'll share these ones. This is version 2, okay, of targeting. And then there are more version 1 targeting. Let me try to see if I can find an example of that. Yeah, this is more of a version 1 targeting here. Okay. And this is something that I just inspected and detected just recently. And let's go over to Lilith. So Lilith, which one do you think is a better approach, right? Here's the version 2. Let's just call this V2. Okay. Approach. So it's more conversational, shorter. And this is, the previous one is version 1 approach.
I think version 2 because
Right.
I'm not really sure because my experience when people sending that kind of long message, I would just ignore it.
Right. Right. And Shaylin, that's what I've noticed too, scanning through the inboxes. Most of the times when we send a long message on LinkedIn, people just ignore it or they say, yeah, sure, I'll apply and don't actually apply. So it could be actually the targeting message on LinkedIn needs to be more conversational instead of, just dropping this in. Actually, wait, let me ask Justin as somebody from outside. Justin, if a recruiter was approaching you, which style would you appreciate more? Where somebody just kind of drops like an entire letter on you, or if they try to start up a conversation with you first?
Yeah, definitely for me and what I've seen is I think it's got to be a little more personalized, right?
Right.
If someone reaches out to you, and again, I don't know what it has to be. Maybe they've done a little bit of research about you and say, hey, I just seen that you've graduated from such and such school, or if you had such and such experience. So you know that this recruiter is really targeting you as
Mhm.
opposed to just like if I'm a recruiter, I'm just sending 100 emails or thousands of emails to everybody. Like
Mhm.
you can kind of feel that, right? And
Right.
those are the ones you kind of ignore.
Yeah.
So
And
if you're really
why would you want
targeting
to work at
someone,
a company like that? Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. So that Lilith is something that I just discovered pretty recently, looking and inspecting the actual work, right? This is an iterative process. Of course, I think I was one of the people who first created this. I had expected this probably would have been used more in emails, but looking at the way that it was approached on LinkedIn, it needs to be refined, right? So right now, when we are doing it, it's shorter, and it also gets to thinking about the actual work that we do first. So, like in this particular case, this person is looking to do business development. So I show them the properties that we're actually collecting first by introducing our Airbnb listings so that they have an idea of what the experience of working here is like, right? Rather than saying, I have a job for you, please apply. So I think through that, it can refine the process. So that's another thing too, in particular with the whale hunting method, probably needs to get micro targeted and more personalized. And that's another reason we've seen delays in the hiring process. Yeah. So Shaylin, does that sort of explain the strategy part too as well? Essentially, the targeting hasn't been as I would say as personal as it could be.
Yep, definitely. I think we also like started to implement the second approach since the previous week. So I think it's been like getting better responses from there.
Right. Okay, let's go to this one is actually pretty good. So I feel this all the time, and it is a confounding situation. So let's have Wayana bring it up. Babe, so Bali is busy and most people want to get back to work. Consider find the right a platform or people passionate reservation for long-term jobs. Right. Babe, do you have any further that you want to bring up on this particular idea? Babe, are you there?
Yeah. Sorry, I was talking to Mbak a bit. From me is Bali is busy. I think most people back to work. I think it's like more consider like find the right platform for the people that passionate reservation because I believe, I mean, how many hotels there are in Bali, right? So most people have the reservation for sure.
That's true, right?
And then I think we need to find the right platform. Like, where is this people? Like, find these people. So we need to be there.
Okay, got it. So a good question could be, where are other hotels actually looking to find recruits? Shailene, do you remember at one point we were using Indeed? Kind of like at, I think, the very
Yep,
beginning of
we
your career. Correct?
used that previously.
All right. But what was the problem with Indeed at that point?
Indeed, right. I don't exactly remember, but I think previously the Indeed one was targeted towards like foreigners, foreign like students. So it was actually like there were actually some positions that may not be like suitable at that point.
Okay. I also remember Indeed was pretty noisy. Most of the applicants that came in, we were just not really pass at all into either trials or into interviews even. And we just spent most of our time screening away people. So that was the general issue with that side. Babe, is there anybody you know that has any hotel you know that has really great reservation staff? Or have they automated this? They don't even have reservation staff. It just goes through a computer and doesn't even need anybody to take care of the reservations. Babe, you're muted.
Sorry. Most hotel, I think they use like Booking.com, Agoda, and all automated one because we use Airbnb. We need such a skill that we need, because there is in Korean stuff like.
Right.
And I think the one that we targeted is like each hotel have of course who handle like called offline reservation. Those people exist as well. There's in the hotel should be. It's called e-commerce. E-commerce
Right.
what it does is like basically manage the listing and pricing when and up and down, and then just make sure connect to the platform. That's it.
Oh,
So
fantastic. Okay.
for the offline agents normally like direct guest, dari direct guest agent, and how to. So they are normally they have two people that doing different job.
Okay. That's another possibility too as well, right? Like maybe the separation of roles. All right. Here's what we're going to do actually about this as a company level. So just as an announcement, one of the possibilities that I looked at that seemed very real is that we're still paying wages according to COVID wages, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look across the spectrum of all of our employees, and there's going to be a general raise in everybody's salaries and bonuses. Okay, and as a result of that, we can bring up essentially the minimum or whatever the minimum like level where we can hire people and hopefully attract people with better salaries, right? Because right now, if we raise wages for newcomers, that would almost be the same as, let's say, the people who already been here through COVID. That would not be fair. So then it needs to start with essentially a wage raise for everybody who's here first. Okay. That's strategy number one. So that's overall just general adjustment for post-COVID. The second thing that I think we need is, of course, we need better inspection in this particular way that we're generating awareness. This kind of inspection is actually not something that I think the awareness team knows how to do particularly, because this is more almost like a business development type of inspection, right? Looking at essentially the language, the approach, the particular way. So less on general marketing principles, more on how to sell, especially if we're going after whale hunting, which is more of a sales method. So that, and plus without having holidays in the way, breaking up the flow of the recruitment process are the two changes that I think we can implement to also accelerate the process of how we hire. We got some progress right now. We got Ega here, for example, but it needs to be also faster. We need to get more applicants here too as well. Okay, that's my best answer for this particular question here. Let's go to Lilith. Okay, so there's company being led in the right direction. Lilith says, let's go over to you, Lilith.
Actually, slightly, I feel that the strategy is more defined right now in some parts, but I'm not really sure in terms of the team management itself, because I also write another question that is relevant for this, I guess, because I haven't really checked the turnover rate, but our turnover rate is very high.
Yes, let's take a look at that. Yes, we do have turnover. I saw you write that. But
In the most right. Sorry,
the
I
most
moved
right.
it. Yeah, so
Oh, okay. All right. Let's bring that over
like-
here because that's related to here. Okay. Wait, that's not here. Turnover. Okay, this is it. Right.
Mhm.
Let's dig into this actually. This is a good question. Have we identified our turnover rate? Feels like it's very high. If yes, then why is it happening? Are we doing better or worse? Team management. Okay, Shaylin, this is a question for your side actually. What is the best answer for this particular question?
Okay, turnover. Recently it's pretty high, actually. Like, especially in the previous month, considering that few people didn't actually pass probation, and then we have like one or two people like resign. So it was considering the timeline, right? When people starting their probation, especially from the reservations team, previously they start on around like January, right?
Mhm.
Around January, February-ish, and then their probation is supposed to end like around April. So that is the cause as well. They're not getting probation. That actually like making the turnover rate is pretty high compared to the previous months in this case.
Got it. Okay. So that seems to be one of the main reasons. Lois, is that what you see too as well? People not passing their probations?
Yes, that's the first reason that is very clear, right? I mean,
Sure.
inside of that, we should know why people is not passing probation. That might be in the
They have not been
Or-
correctly selected.
Yeah, it might the first. The second is there is no enough or good training system. That also possible. So that's why it goes into team management, right?
Sure. Okay. Let's ask what's the correct team management solution to this. I think the first question is, okay, is the turnover that we're seeing good turnover or bad turnover, right? Babe, what did you recently notice from partner feedback about the way that our operations were being carried out by some of the people who didn't pass probation?
I think so. I went to Canggu for 2 days, so basically want to listen, like about traffic, about like how is the operation, like what they value Bukit Vista, like more asking that. And actually, based on what I asked, like most people value the way we taking care, opting for them, so daily basis. So like that's what they most value because that's what make us different than others. That what they said. So because most Canggu people want to be a boss, right? So they don't want like too much work that asking like some stupid question and like over and over again. It's just kind of like basically they don't want like taking care of the low quality things. So that's why like Kakol and other people, because they have also other business, have a restaurant, have thing to
Right.
do, so they don't want. So the way they see us that why they choose Bukit Vista because they can take the most bandwidth about regarding gas and stuff. So they see the most value of Bukit Vista.
Okay. And what did they see from some of the people who didn't pass probation?
So I think from like before like the quality of the operational team. So like for us as simple like what thing they have in the property, like they asking the same thing. So basically low quality question and create like a trust issue that with the partner. So basically why it's trust issue because how about this gas extend, yes extend, block the calendar, and then the next day asking is this this gas happened paid, like what, so why you said it's confirmed but actually not paid, so what is going on, like basically like no the quality of the work basically it's not good, so that
Okay, got it. So that kind of relates back up to this team management issue, right? And then that relates to essentially the further breakdown. I guess we don't have any transformation people here at the moment. Do you believe it was the issue that these people were not trained on how to do the operation as well, or were they trained and still didn't know how to do it?
But I think this has been trained, and also the problem is that like so we are too many new people like intern whatever doing operational, but it shouldn't be. I was thinking for a long time. I was after like get that feedback from the owner. West is the core problem actually the core problem is thinking like new people shouldn't be involved in the partnership because that's what we promise, and we cannot mess up the thing that we promise. And then so the new people actually I talked to Gray, like I think the new intern like they make the report, not the senior make the report, and then the senior always to steady operational and doing a good job between owner and guest, instead of like the new people doing this and just have no clueless and messed up everything, and it just it's not worth it. So I think it's just more like into consistency of our service. It's like any service that people want, like McDonald's, people that it sucks, but if you're consistent, you keep on using them, right?
Okay,
So
got it.
so but they don't want like up and down, today this, tomorrow that, and especially
Correct,
if you have
correct.
experience that
Okay,
has expectation that what we promise, like that we take the load of, so I mean we meant to be that way, but actually like this new people it's not carry what what it's supposed to be,
right.
that's why.
Okay, so would you say that there's sort of a lack of leadership in the guest funnel?
Leadership, and also as we as a company need to know when is this person can be in charge, and so have to be passed up like a test before really going there. So
Okay,
for me
correct
it's like
delegation versus hasty delegation, yeah?
yeah, and that to make sure also like I have a tight checklist that need to know like the product and the flow of the flow of the reservation coordination with owner and guest, and internally. So because a lot of work that because I'm in the reservation like in the past week, and I see like a lot of things that like not many people, like a lot of things that need to juggle around. Even like I feel like like work like almost like
Okay,
1
got it.
hour, so it's so many things that can be fixed. So I was thinking with Gray and with Tandy as well, like Tandy now is in the ethos, so I was thinking to make a body part, so we have like 4 people, like 2 reservation and two hosts. So I put Tandy as a host at the moment, but Tandy have like multiple job at the moment.
Understood.
He's struggling, and like it's very
Okay.
overwhelming, I can see.
Yeah.
It's like full
This is
stack
why-
really take a lot of time, and then it's have to be, so he in the full stack and then the contract and stuff. So it just is one person, and he's very like if you expect like me report and this and that, so I don't have had time for that. Maybe it just for me like I feel Ken being Tandy, so because
Okay.
I can work with him a lot. So
Let's kind of take a look and drill down again, right? So the company feels like it's being led in the right direction, but then there are these particular problems that we're talking about. So let's break this problem down a little bit. Lilith, let's say, for example, let's say we did not have turnover problems. Let's say we passed all the people who were underperforming. Would that mess up the direction the company is going, actually?
Do you mean like without proper training or?
Well, no, let's say, for example, the people who failed probation, if we kept them to this day, right, would we have the correct strategy or not?
Correct strategy, I think. For strategy, that's actually we create a strategy first, and then we see if people is available. If not, then we hire. That's
Right.
the principle, right? So strategy come first, and then
Right.
we see if it is possible to be executed or not. So
Correct.
if we keep them, I think the strategy is still okay, but just needs to get them aligned with the strategy itself, basically.
But they weren't aligned. That's why they didn't pass probation.
So then, back again, whether we are selecting the correct person
Right,
or we are having a
Back
good
to the top again.
training.
So if you trace this all the way up to the root, Shaylin, it comes down to, are we being careful about selecting the right people to actually join? And this then traces back to this particular idea, which is, are we focusing on short-term or long-term goals? Oftentimes we are in a rush to hire, such as again, right? So then we cut corners, we take whatever, and we say, okay, we'll just hire this person and put them into the job. But then we discover over time that the person doesn't fit the job, the person is unnaturally challenged, they can't keep up, it's frustrating to do the training and not see any results. And then that kind of brings down the esteem of the team. And then eventually, after a few months, we pay the price of having to let them go anyway, right? And so that then brings us back into this deficit again, where we have to go and start the hiring process all over and do the whole thing. So part of this, I think, Lilith, relates to this idea, right? If we don't focus on long-term hiring principles, on selecting the right people at the right qualifications and making sure that they are able to pass the training, then we always kind of get temporary relief for the moment by getting a body to sit in a chair to help with whatever is on the shift, but they're unable to, let's say, do the job properly over time. The brand starts suffering, we can't keep them, and so on and so forth, right? So it looks like the root issue is essentially getting the right qualified person in and then attracting them to stay, which is kind of like what the purpose of moving Ara actually into the employee squad has been over the past few days or past few weeks, okay? So let's kind of zoom out a little bit though. Liz, you said that things are better than before. What is better than before in this particular case? Given we have team management, let's say limitations and such, but what's the good part?
The good part, actually, I see that most of the people understand correctly what is the direction of their chapter or funnel. In this case, if we look at into squad, each funnel really understand what is their goal.
Right.
Right now, for squad, for the guest squad, for example, we are directing into SLA value.
Yes.
So they know basically to reach this, how what things to do, and
Right.
then how far from the goal. So kind
Right.
of can set some strategy by themselves alone.
Excellent. And when everybody, let's say, in the remaining team moves, it makes it easier to understand where we're going, right? if there's always a few people who never seem to understand, then even if you do understand, you're kind of like, am I crazy or am I the only person who gets it? Okay. This is what I've noticed too, and I've asked Jessica about it. Is adoption actually improving because we've removed the non-adopters, or is it improving because there's better adoption? She says probably a little bit of both, right? We're getting a bit of both actually happening here. Okay, in terms of strategy, I want to link this one together, right? Which is the unsung hero here. And I think Jessica or Jesslyn mentioned this one. Jesslyn, you mentioned Ghani, right? Over on this side.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, I would agree. Ghani is doing really, really well, actually. He's really stepping up and absorbing a lot of good stuff. He's absorbing strategic understanding. He's absorbing good team management. His performance on each particular member of his team is above average, actually. It's really good. So strategically, this is something I think that we should recognize as well. Oftentimes as a company, we focus a lot on where the weak parts are, right? We're like, oh, we're weak on this, we're weak on this, we're weak on this. We need, hey, Eka, not now, huh? Eka, not now. We're weak on this, we're weak on this. We need to send more resources over there. But I think as a strategy, everyone, oftentimes it's better to think about what you're good at and start reinforcing that rather than keep on reinforcing what you're weak at and trying to repair that. So how could that possibly look like, for example? So currently, a lot of the work being done in conversion and transformation is how to... Okay, all right, I'll see you later, Justin. Yeah. So a lot of the work being done in conversion and transformation is basically engaging with the guests, telling them about what's there to do, what the rules are, blah, 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 you know, these common things. But can we actually shift that work up to awareness if awareness can handle it? If awareness has stronger leadership, they have better tools, if they have more leverage to solve problems with guests or even partners, can we actually bring that work up to the top? So that's essentially one of the strategical directions we also want to explore. Can awareness actually take on some of the loads that currently are being delegated to people in the lower parts of the funnel too as well? Okay, anyways, hopefully this is good for everyone attending. You can kind of see and work with me on strategic vision and looking at, let's say, the picture. And thank you, Justin, for being our guest today. It was good to have a college buddy come and revisit. And hey, it's an act of hospitality. Okay.
Thank you very much.
That's pretty much it then. Thank you all for coming to the All Hands, and hope to have a great week ahead. Once again, for this week, because we are a little bit in during this holiday season, I'll just kind of have more relaxed standards. Please just do what you did the previous month. Next week, when we start the All Hands with the full company there, that's when we will define essentially the goals and be more determined to get to where we're going. Okay. So I know it could be a bit overwhelming this week for everyone here, so I'm not going to push. I'm not going to, I think we're kind of there already in terms of our motivation. So just take it easy. Take care of your own mental health, of course, and pass the ball. Actually, that's one theme I want you to remember. Pass the ball. If it gets too crowded or whatever, try to find somebody on the team that you can pass the ball to so that you're not overloaded. All right. Everyone, have a great week ahead. I wish you well. Inspired Delight.